It seems such an own goal for women to sign up and believe in self-ID. Why would any woman agree with this? What is the psychology behind it? Is it simply female socialization that will always center men? Is that the reason this has happened? That's not to any particular panelist, to anyone who would like to answer.
I mean, I have some theories that I had to try and work through for the book. Yes. And I think to some extent, I think it's kind of appealing, this idea that we're liberated from our bodies. Yeah. And women don't like the idea that we're just, you know, walking uterus on legs, or that, you know, I mean, you have to accept reality if you want to protect women. Yeah. But especially before women become mothers, or if they're not going to become mothers, their friends are at the age that they become mothers, it can be kind of easy to buy into the idea that we are all something like, you know, a meat sack with a ghost in it, or whatever, you know, analogy you want to use, like some people say, like, you know, walking computer on legs or something. You can believe that your body doesn't tie you down and doesn't mean very much until you hit that bedrock reality of growing another human being and pushing it out, or seeing your friends do that, or being treated badly at work when you thought all of that was sorted and you just thought people were complaining about nothing, you know. So there's this psychological thing of wanting to be, you know, limitless, formless, women of the world, all these lovely things that idiots like unwomen, as I call them, the UN women say. So I think there's that, there's denial, there's genuinely not understanding what people are talking about. Women become radicalized in their midlife. And then we actually mostly have sex segregation at the moment de facto where it matters. I mean, we're losing it, but we have it. So you can pretend to yourself, for example, that women are weaker. Like, lots of women think it's quite unfeminist to say that women are physically weaker than men in sport. I've had people say that it's unfeminist of me to say that women are weaker. It's just fact. And so when you see athletes saying, oh, I can take any man on, well, that's because they've never had to, come on. You know, so it's easy to say it when you never have to. You'll know if you're put in the ring or in the pitch with a man that that's ridiculous, but they mostly aren't. So they're my theories for the moment.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I think as well, when feminism reduced itself to workplace equality and pay gap feminism, it kind of disappeared our biology actually as well. So then we have a whole generation who don't even think about or acknowledge male pattern violence, the structures that we live within, and our biology, the bodies that we experience the world through.
Sorry, I should have said live fem, of course, as well. Like, developments in academia and developments in feminism have actually been extremely harmful for women.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons I think a lot of women in this movement no longer call themselves feminists, for that reason, to move away from that. So just have time.
And it's no coincidence that Mumsnet has been the sort of bedrock of the resistance in the UK, because you know, as Helen said, I think young women, you don't know what you don't know, and then you become a mother, and then you're outside of all of those political and workplace networks that you were in before. And Mumsnet sort of brings together this amazing brain trust of women who've sort of had the scales removed from their eyes, of, you know, of thinking the world was a lot more equal than it really is.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I think myself and a lot of my friends and my sisters all had that existential moment where your partner goes back after paternity leave and you can't even go to the loo because you've got this tiny baby, and you just think, how did this happen? I've gone through some kind of wormhole back to the 1950s. I thought I had this completely like equal existence, and it is true. It is motherhood. I think there's no coincidence that Mumsnet is the radicalizing kind of gateway. I have another question here. Are the panel more or less hopeful that 6 months ago that we can regain the ground? Can we regain the ground, and can we get our boundaries back and our rights? And is this different in the US compared to in Europe? Is that?
I mean, I'm hopeful, but not fast, especially in places that laws have changed. Mm-hmm. And I think the US, it's all tangled up with politics in the US and polarization. Mm-hmm. And I mean, America has a dismal record in resolving really tricky public policy problems. It's not the first one. Things like healthcare and gun control, you know, and they're still arguing about abortion. So once things end up in these, you know, America paints itself into political corners, and then you can't see how to get out. Like, once there are more guns than people, how do you do gun control? well, now you can't, you know. So I'm a bit afraid that they're going to paint themselves into a corner on this one, and it's just going to be another of the terrible, terrible things that America has got badly wrong. Everybody else has resolved, and they haven't, and they can't.
And of course, it's very difficult for women out there because it's so polarized. You're either pro Biden's EO or you're against reproductive rights for women. It's really tricky for them. Any more questions?
Yeah, well, I would just say for the UK, though, I mean, I totally agree with Helen, but for the UK, I'm starting to feel a bit more optimistic.
Good.
I think we're starting to see the change. I just did some analysis the other day of donations to crowdfunders and how the ones we've run 4 now, Fair Play for Women, and we've always had the majority have been anonymous, and it's only shifted a tiny bit. So it went from 57% of donations were anonymous to 52% end of last year. And even for the £100,000 that we just raised for the ONS case, still half of them are anonymous. And if you contrast that with other issues, even things taking on the UK government or complaining about the Chinese government or complaining about your own local authority, where you could understand someone might not want to put their name, not the same proportion of anonymity at all. So we are still being silenced, but I see a shift. I think it's shifting. I don't know what Helen and Maya think.
Completely agree. I mean, it's not going to be easy, but by having held the legal line, you know, now you can start to use the law in your favor and force people like Stonewall back out of businesses, hopefully. It's not going to be easy, but I think it's so much easier somewhere that the law hasn't been changed.
However, to end on an optimistic note, I have to say that on the ground in Ireland, we are seeing a huge shift in the kind of the discourse. The Overton window has moved from "there's nothing to see here, everything is bedded down beautifully" to "oh, there is disquiet, there are groups, there are concerns." And I think bit by bit there will be in time analysis of in a substantive way about our concerns. And also, it seems like a small thing, but I think it's highly significant. More and more women are using our hashtag. I've got a really nice little bit of merchandise here. We will be heard. Can you see this, everyone? Oh, it's blended.
Oh, no.
But they're saying we will be heard in their bios with their real names. And I think that is quite significant. You know, people are feeling, you know, that they can speak up. So I did promise everyone a little treat. And I'm now going to unveil that little treat. An amazing woman who is a singer-songwriter is going to, I'm going to have a chat with her and then she's going to sing us out. But before I do, I just want to, I've been told to remind people of our YouTube channel. We need to get subscribers. We need to basically beat the algorithms, don't we all? So we need to get more subscribers so that we can brand it as the Countess. And we are going to start having merchandise. This is a nice little face mask. And I don't know if you can see this, actually. I have to stand up. Can you see I'm wearing our logo. I think I've been hiding it all day, but so we are going to have merchandise. We're very proud of our brand and our inspiration, our figurehead. But without further ado, I want to thank everyone for coming here today. This was a momentous occasion for everyone here in the movement in Ireland. Really appreciate you giving us your time, to our wonderful panelists. And yes, it's really important to remember that we live in a democracy and our voices matter. And our figurehead, Countess Markievicz, went to her first ever political meeting when she was 41. So it is never too late to change the course of history, the course of your country. And I believe we can do that together.